Okay, so we've got our two-player game working just the way we want it to, but the next thing we want to do is actually make it into a single-player game and add some basic AI to our little player 2 paddle over here on the right. So to do that, the first thing we're going to do is save our current scene as a new scene, and what we're going to save it as is, we're going to go save scenes and then save scene as, make sure we're in the scenes folder, and we're going to save this one as multiplayer. And then we're going to save it again. We're going to say save scene as. In our scenes folder, we're going to save it as single player. Okay, so now that we're because we just saved it as single player, we're working within the single player screen, or within the single player scene even. So now we're going to make some changes to our paddle controller script to control player 2 over here. And the way we're going to do that, first thing we're going to do, we're going to go into our paddle controller script, of course, and we're going to go to our variables up here, and we're going to create a new variable that we're going to call public bool is AI. And this is basically going to be a simple check that we're going to add in at the start and make it so that we can't use input keys to control anything else. So at the start of our update loop, we're going to add a new function or a new if statement that says if is AI, and if it is the AI, then we're going to do some movement code in here to make it try and hit the ball. But if it isn't the AI, then we're going to add this little else bracket and say, okay, if it isn't marked as AI, then it must be either player 1 or player 2, so we can do all this bit of movement code here. So we'll put a close bracket just after all that, and much like we did before, we want to make sure that is all indented. So we'll right click that and indent the selection. So now we know we're doing, okay, if we are an AI, then we're going to do a bit of code here. Otherwise, do the check and see if we're player 1 or player 2, and then move it as appropriate. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is actually make it so that our AI will be able to try and follow the position of the ball basically as it moves up and down the screen, and then move into the right position to try and make it bounce back against the player. So what we'll do is, if we're going to be following the position of the ball, we need to know where the ball is at any particular time. So we're going to need a reference to the ball itself. So we're going to say public game. Actually, we won't do. We'll do specifically to the ball controller. So our ball controller is the script we created, and what we're doing now is saying, okay, we're going to make a reference to the specific ball controller script, and we're going to call it the ball. And then what we can do in our start function here, rather than having to go and assign it in our inspector like we've had to do previously every time we wanted to do anything, we've gone and say, okay, we want a reference to the ball. Let's make sure that the ball is attached to the right paddle. What we can do instead, to kind of automate the process a little bit, is just say in our start function, we can say, okay, the ball should be equal to find object of type ball controller. Oh, no, I'm not typing the right thing there at all. Ball controller. Like that. And so what that'll do is it'll search the current scene and find any object that has the ball controller script attached to it. And because we know there's only one object in the scene that will have that script attached to it, we know that it'll find the exact ball that we wanted to find. So now that it knows where the ball is, we can use that to control where we're moving to. So what we'll do is, if we are the AI, we'll say, okay, if that's the truth, then transform.position should be equal to, instead of making it equal to a new vector tree, what we're going to do is make it try to move toward where the ball currently is. So it won't just try and match exactly where the ball is, it'll move at a certain speed towards where the ball is. And the way we do that is by using a vector tree dot move towards. So what move towards does if as soon as you hit the first bracket, you'll get this little tooltip that kind of gives you an idea of what it is. As it says, it moves a point current in a straight line towards the target point. So basically what we have is where our current position is, we want to go towards a certain other object, and then we have the amount of distance that we're allowed to move towards that object. So the first value will be where we currently are, so that'll just be our transform dot position. Where we want to go towards is a new vector tree. On the x-axis, we don't really want to move left or right at all, so we'll just use our current transform dot position dot x. On the y-axis is where we're actually wanting to do something interesting, which is we want to follow along with the ball. So we're going to say the ball dot transform dot position dot y. And then finally, again, we don't want to move anywhere on the z-axis, so we'll say transform dot position dot z. And then at the end here, we have how much distance we're going to be allowed to move at any particular time, and of course that will be basically our movement speed. So we'll use the value we've used before, so that'll be our speed, and we're going to multiply it by time dot delta time, just as we did before, for the exact same reason. We don't want the paddle being able to move around like crazy. So now that we have that in place, and need to make sure we put a semicolon at the end, save that, and we'll go back in here. And now we should be able to see this paddle moving around in operation. As I said, it's a very simple AI, but it works perfectly well for our goals and for what we want it to do. So we have paddle 1, or sorry, our player 1 paddle is perfectly fine as he is, but our player 2 paddle, we're going to scroll down here and we're going to set the AI to be true, and then we don't need to hook up the ball at all because that will automatically find it. And then we're going to hit play. And now, once it's going, you can see it's following along, trying to keep up with where the ball is. Now, the important thing then is to try and adjust how fast it moves to be able to keep up with the ball. Because at the moment it's making it very easy. You can see you can follow along quite well with the ball. A lot better than I can. So what we'll do is adjust the speed of our computer paddle to be down to 6. And we'll play again. And basically it's about finding the balance. So you adjust the speed to make the second paddle, or the computer paddle, whatever you want to refer to it as, to make it easier or harder as you go. So what you could do is set up multiple scenes with different speeds on each paddle, so that you would have, say, an easy speed, a hard speed, or a mega hard speed, whatever you want to do. But you can see now we've got this basic kind of AI in operation. It's following along with where the ball is. It's kind of playing the game. It's kind of trying to keep going as it goes. And it's trying to keep up. And it's just a simple, straightforward AI.